Get them fired up and get them to the staging lanes, baby, because 8th Mile Apparel is now carrying Going Bracket Racing merch. Hats, t-shirts, hoodies, and much more can be yours today by visiting 8thmileapparel.com. We appreciate each and every one of you guys supporting the Going Bracket Racing YouTube and Facebook pages.
What's up, everybody? Casey and George back on January 14th, I guess it is, over here. Trying to do 15 things at once. I'm up here in my office again, not out in the shop. It's still cold out there. I'll get everything all set back up, hopefully, for next week's show, January 14, 2025, episode 182 of the Going Bracket Racing Live show, presented by TSR Racing Products. Go to them for your Power Glides, Turbo 350s, 400s, and 727s. They're all worn out and need some freshening up during the wintertime. Call them for all your parts and transmission accessories. BRG 3D printed parts. Anything you need, Brian Garrett will print it up for you. Get any of those specialty parts that you need printed out of that high-density plastic and polymers, making your car a little bit lighter over the wintertime. Any of those fancy parts that you found on the internet, found from eBay, might have got them from China. Don't do that, but I'm just saying, Brian Garrett can figure out how to mount those on your car, because you can't, because China didn't figure it out for you. Syntex Printing out there in Temple, Texas. Get all your stickers, shirts, brochures, anything you need for your business. Syntex Printing out there in Temple, Texas. Driven Racing Oil. Get your engine oil, get your transmission fluid, get your rear end oil, get some oil for the truck you tow with. Get some, what was I using on that Onan generator earlier this week? I was using some of their brake clean.
Brake clean.
They got all kinds of stuff. Speed clean. Yeah, use that speed clean. Get your trailer looking better. But most importantly, use the code GBR10 because it gets you 10% off whatever you order, no matter how much you order. Proform Parts. Visit proformparts.com for your shop tools, carburetors, alternators, starters, radiators, accessories, and all kinds of extra stuff. Proform's always coming out with new stuff. Proformparts.com. Crew Chief Pro software. Whenever we get into this new season, you're going to have a new combination. Don Higgins told us you get about 2-3 runs in that Crew Chief Pro software, and he'll tell you what you're going to run next round. Help you out, get some of that money earlier in the year, pay some of that stuff off. And we got our newest partner that we're proud to bring on board, Gearhead Solutions. Great customer service and access to over 1,000 vendors. Get your parts when you need them at gearheadsolutions.com. Their website looks pretty good right now to me, but I was told that they're getting ready to redo it and make it even better. But contact Gearhead Solutions, and man, glad to have them.
Yeah, I heard that, man. It's definitely, man. I've been right here in Texas. I think last time we talked, we might not have had no snow on the ground. I can't remember though. Well, shoot, a couple days after that, we had about 8-9 inches up here in northern Texas, and I think two or three snowmans later, after my kids got done running me around the house, I was pretty good and tired. I like it cold in the house, so I didn't even hardly want to turn the furnace on, but I had to turn it on. Shouldn't have a problem right now. I know, right? I'm good to go. Yeah, man, definitely shout out to Gearhead joining up, man. You guys make sure if you need anything, you head on over there. I know its turnaround time's very good. I know several people who order tires out of there too, so make sure you guys, if you need anything, head on over to Gearhead Solutions. Anything you need, if you can't find them, you come to GBR. We'll get you where you need to go one way or the other, but there's a pretty nice website out there and a Facebook page. So, Casey, man, we got a lot to talk about today, brother, the way I see it. We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we got a our questions from the pits is always typically towards the end of the show. We just started that maybe 3 or 4 shows ago. Seems like a while back just because we started it really in December before Christmas time. But, we always get a lot of good ideas out there. We get a lot of emails. GoingBracketRacing@gmail.com is where you get a hold of us, or you can send us a message, of course, on our Facebook page if you want anything talked about. But we have something that kind of applies to last week's show where I can't even remember what we titled last week's show, George, but it was kind of just like what's going on with the IHRA. And then the very next day, Kenny Noling was no longer with IHRA, the only person we had seen doing a lot of stuff with IHRA. So this, I feel like this builds on last week's show. So it's something that we can't necessarily put on the back burner. We need to really talk about it right now. So
right now, man,
you want to just read that off?
Yeah, let's just get right on into it. Another episode of questions from the pits live here at Going Bracket Racing. Question here is anonymous, and on top of that, he's gonna keep who his source is anonymous as well. But this email comes in and says, "I have a friend who works closely with IHRA who has mentioned the possibility of a merger between IHRA and WDRA. If this was to happen, the same people who ran IHRA previously would then be back in the driver's seat." What do you think, Casey? Because he's asking, do we even think this is possible or even a good option at the same time? You know what? You know what? You want me to start. I'm going to start. I'm going to start this one.
You go ahead and start.
So let's just go straight to what I think would be. Either one of them is going to weigh this out first. This is just kind of what you do, seemingly, if you were to acquire or gain access to something that isn't readily yours. You go and you figure out who's the good fits and who's the bad fits. Air quotes there, guys. I'm pretty sure you can put 2 and 2 together with what I'm talking about. But anyway, the first thing comes to it is who holds the bargaining chips, in my opinion, Casey. And in this case, I would definitely have to say that WDRA would hold the bargaining chips if this were to come to any type of a table. One reason I believe it is if we look at racetracks right now in this whole country, we have 3 major sanctioning bodies. You might as well call it 3 at this point: WDRA, IHRA, and NHRA. We know that IHRA, quote unquote, and we don't even know if this is still the case right now, but we know they talked about having national events. So each of us can easily go and see what track does IHRA have that they could host the national event at, unless you run 8th mile fuel cars, which doesn't bother me, but you still got to figure out what track can hold that type of speed and then house that type of amount of cars that would come. Well, we know that IHRA doesn't have any of those tracks, Casey, in my opinion. I mean, if anybody wants to correct me here, please feel free, but I don't think they have a venue to be able to host fuel or any other type of very, very fast cars there. So, but I do believe WDRA does. And that's where I'm saying WDRA would have the bargaining chips. What are your thoughts?
Well, I did a whole lot of research this morning before I actually went to work based on this email, and I guess I'll just start everything out with a disclaimer that this is just the opinions based on what was written on the internet. Now, I did go to some websites that were about as legit as they could get, but I encourage you to do your own research and form your own opinions. And obviously, if you have an opinion, put it in the comments section down below, and we'll respond to those and see what's going on, and let us know what you think, as always, as it is on every single episode of GBR Live. But no real facts here, just stuff that I've read.
You got to tell me who's got the bargaining chips.
Yeah, well, I mean, the bargaining chips obviously are in WDRA's pocket, and because IHRA's been sold twice in the last 2 years or something like that. So I mean, that's just common sense because everybody's going to follow that. But I feel like going off of our question from the pits guy, the main question is, or the main statement, I guess, is the same people who used to run IHRA would run IHRA or WDRA, whatever they would go with, if there was a merger. again. And people view that as a negative. Now, we had John O'Neill on our show about this time last year, whenever WDRA was really getting kicking and starting going. Honestly, we've been doing this for so long. I don't know if it was 2 years ago, but I know he was on here. So go back and watch that if you want to see what WDRA is all about. The old IHRA leadership has got some people up in arms for the wrong reasons, in my opinion. And let's just go back before Larry Jeffers even bought IHRA, because that's whenever it made its major downfall. IRG Sports and Entertainment is who owned or who bought IHRA from, I feel like Bill Bader or somebody like that. Maybe it was, I don't know. I feel like Randy Meyer might own it at some point. But anyway, IRG Sports was owned by a company called Sixth Street, which is a global investment firm. And I went and looked. IRG, by the way, went bankrupt and liquidated their assets on September 23rd, 2022, based on pitchbook.com. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I've never heard of the website before. I'm just saying it says IRG is bankrupt. Sixth Street's mission statement on their website specifically says, we build businesses, invest for growth, acquire assets, provide direct financing, so on and so forth. What I want to highlight is acquire assets and provide direct financing. And as an umbrella company, if you own a company, you can have that company can be an umbrella company which has several companies underneath it. And IRG was one of those companies under Sixth Street. You can now bankrupt any of those companies, and it does not affect the holding company. It only affects that specific company. So that main company is not liable for any of the losses that this company would acquire in most cases. So there's a million different ways you can spin that, but it looks to me Palm Beach Raceway is one of the best examples of kind of what I'm thinking. I don't think IRG ever had the intention of doing anything with racing. I think the acquire assets thing in Sixth Street's mission statement was part of that, because guess what? What do racetracks have? A whole bunch of open flat land. What's in Palm Beach? Lots of stuff. You know, like it's a good area to be able to put an Amazon warehouse or whatever, you know. And I don't know if that's what they did. I'm just saying hypothetically it would be a great place because it's already level land and it's easy to build upon, and it's got a lot of acreage. So, you know, during the court battle, I did find a statement, and I'm going to read this off the screen over here because it's a direct quote. Joe Englehart is the guy's name, and I believe this was written. I believe this was taken directly out of the court battle with Palm Beach Raceway. Racing fans have fought the plan for more than a year, arguing that Raceway owner IRG Sports and Entertainment, the company that owned IHRA, let the property decline to build support for its conversion to warehouses. IRG said it lost millions on racing and had every right to build warehouses at the industrially zoned site. And that is true. However, we all know that you can easily let a racetrack decline by doing nothing. Let the cracks form, let the potholes form, let the guardrails not be up to cue where you can't, of course they owned IHRA at the time, but let's just hypothetically say they don't. You just make it not safe. Make it where people don't want to go there. Don't update the timing system. Make sure it's crooked. Make it to where you got to have 20 less in the box in this lane than that lane. You know, like there is a goal there. And the mission statement, again, goes back to acquiring assets for profit. That's the point. So in my mind, Sixth Street starts IRG, acquires IHRA. It looks like the goal may have been just to gain the assets. It's something very similar to Kmart's goal whenever they acquired Sears back in the day, or vice versa. They merged with Sears. I don't know who acquired who, but the fact of the matter is that whoever was the CEO at the time was known for being the CEO of companies and then just getting rid of all their stuff. I want to say Whirlpool was one of those things that either Sears or Kmart owned, and they sold Whirlpool and got a whole bunch of money for the assets and the namesake of Whirlpool. And what a lot of people don't realize also is, and I don't know if this is the case or how this would even work with the IRG scenario, but you can declare Chapter 11 bankruptcy and you can still operate and not necessarily go real bankrupt immediately. You can still be allowed to operate and just restructure your finances, and you can still be operational while you pay debts. But when you bankrupt a company, again, under an umbrella company, only that company is the one that goes bankrupt. The main company is generally not directly liable for the debts of the lower level company. So as racers, we all thought it was safe because IHRA was doing all this stuff, right? IHRA was not doing all this stuff. IRG was doing all this stuff, and IRG was doing all this stuff because 6th Street told it to. So whenever you look back through, the chain, it looks like the goal of IRG was never racing. So kind of after reviewing all of this information, my personal opinion is that the folks that run WDRA now started WDRA. Those were your original IHRA guys that everybody's so worried about. Oh, IHRA was terrible because of the WDRA people, and now they're in WDRA.
Yep.
From what I've read, they're not at fault for the demise of IHRA, nor is the IHRA name. Who's at fault is whoever was at the helm of IRG at the time of all of this stuff. Yep. So what are your thoughts on all that?
Well, I'm glad you said that right there towards the end, because we've all heard and watched on top of that the first initial buy for Larry Jeffers, where it was a little rocky. We reported on it here on Going Bracket Racing. You can go back as far as you want to and look into that. And then we also spoke about WDRA coming along, an alliance style racing sanctioning body. But my thoughts are pretty well exactly what you just said. In the grand scheme of things, the leadership in IHRA may have been handcuffed to the fact to where even if you have a good idea, even if you were gonna, I'll steal the thought process of the last president of IHRA, bring IHRA back to its former glory. Even if you were gonna do that and you had the idea and you had the backing of the tracks, let's even say you had Summit, doesn't seem like they were going to be able to do that based on the money man, or whoever you want to call it, the owner, the person with the keys, not necessarily relinquishing the keys to the people who run the business. Sit behind a desk and tell them what to do, even though you don't know anything about drag racing, is all I'm getting at, Casey. So that's what brings me straight to my next thought here, and it definitely makes me feel like bargaining chips, number one, go to WDRA. Number two, current IHRA would greatly benefit from the question from the pits today, if there would be a merger that could even be possible. Because, again, WDRA has something that is obviously working, something that could have worked for IHRA before, but was handcuffed and couldn't work. So if we do see that happen, you put IHRA's former leaders back in place. I think everybody's in good place, especially when it comes to anything other than NHRA, because obviously we're not hearing a lot of tug of war out of WDRA right now, which is good.
Right, and ultimately, the bottom line is, if the boss says no, the answer is no. It doesn't matter if it's the right decision or not. It means that if from what I've read, the basis of that company was never to, it just doesn't, in their mission statement and all that stuff, it doesn't make any sense that they would want anything other than the land. And I don't know if IRG specifically owned Palm Beach Raceway, I assume they did based on what I read. I saw that they were also talking about acquiring at one point San Antonio years and years ago. I don't know if they ever made that happen or not. Again, this is all just off what I've read on the internet, but based on what I know of how companies operate and what I see as a company being an umbrella company for a bunch of other companies, it seems to me like the goal was to acquire the land to put warehouses on it. And
Yeah.
again, drag racing facilities, we all know this. Drag racing facilities, it's a bunch of land. It's usually in an area that's easily accessible. We know obviously that we can get big trucks and trailers in there. It's a great place to try to put a warehouse if you wanted to put a warehouse up. And there's a lot of money in that.
Yep, I feel like this is what Nick Caputo is talking about over here on the YouTube side. He's saying that it happens a lot with grocery store chains, and obviously it does. You know, you get a grocery store chain, you acquire it just to either make it larger or whatever the case may be, or diminish it until you can get it and put it out of business and it not hurt you. Just exactly how you explained it all. So thanks for the comment there.
Yeah, they acquire each other a lot. And I know that specifically because I work with a lot of grocery store chains with what I do for my day job.
Right.
And in fact, actually, one of the stores that we work with actually just got hit by kind of an anti-monopolistic thing of two chains trying to combine with each other that they disallowed. I can't say who they were, but I'm sure people know. But either way, yes, that does happen a lot. And ultimately, I think my whole purpose of saying all that stuff is because I was on the side too, and we've talked to all the people. We've talked to all the people from all the organizations, and they've been on this show, and they've talked to you people. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of people thought WDRA were a bunch of guys that were like, "Oh man, these people piss me off. I'm going to do something else and compete with them because they piss me off." Well, that's not true. That's from what I've read, at least, that's not true. And I found that to be about as close to a fact as I can see. I didn't get that vibe whenever John O'Neill was on here. I thought he was doing something that was, or attempting to do something that was just generally good for the racer. And I like him as a person, at least as well as we know him on here. Yep. And from what I've read, I think that the people from WDRA might have got screwed. And I'm not saying Larry Jeffers is the one that screwed those people. I think Larry got screwed too.
Correct. Got handed a pile of bones, which is what everybody was saying in the first place. Diminished to the fact to where your bones are showing. You need to be you need to get some more nourishment. You're looking a little weak there, basically. But now, Casey, man, I gotta definitely agree with you when you say that there was definitely more than meets the eye with that whole IHRA initial failure, whatever you want to call it. There was more than what met the eye for all of us. There were a lot of rumors that floated, kind of similar to what I'm reading here on the anonymous from the chat or questions from the pits here. I mean, it's definitely going to be in the rumor mill. I feel like we'll hear it a few more times here before the year's over. But man, I could really see the upside to that merger, the beneficial, what would benefit the drag racer, you know? And so there's part of me that would not quote unquote push for it, but I wouldn't mind it. Hang in there, guys. Make sure, I see a lot of new ones in here, guys. Make sure you hit that follow. Make sure you hit that subscribe over there on the YouTube channel. You never know when Proform will start back up those giveaways to where all you got to do is be subscribed to the YouTube channel to get in. So hang in there. Let's go ahead and give a few words to our marketing partners. Don't go anywhere.
TSR Racing Products has everything you need to make your Power Glide Turbo 350, Turbo 400, and 727 transmissions the best they can be on the street or at the track. With exceptional products, customer service, and over 30 years of experience, TSR Racing Products is always available to help their customers with any of their transmission needs. In-house machining ensures you only receive the best products from TSR Racing. Visit TSR Racing Products at tsr-racing.com or give them a call at 800-394-5889.
BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts are able to provide you with whatever you desire to enhance your drag racing operation. Items like safety belt magnets, nitrous bottle holders, and even quick release delay box mounts are able to be obtained from BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts. Have a look at top selling items such as helmet hooks and steering wheel hooks, which are proven to make it easier to maneuver throughout your race car. You can contact BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts at telephone number 765-729-1177.
When you're in need, don't settle for less. Proform Auto Parts, you've chosen the best. With all the building tools, we take the lead. It's time to upgrade your ride. We've got what you need. Carburetor scales, radiator systems. Proform Auto Parts, we got what you're looking for. Wedge locking box, dress up parts, roller rockers, and so much more at Proform Auto Parts.
All right. Welcome back. Going Bracket Racing, episode 182. Casey, man, you blink, we'll be at 200, bro. You blink. It's only about, 16, 17, 18 weeks away, something like that. Gee whiz, man.
It's been a while.
Been doing this for a little while now, man. Special shout out to everybody who stays behind us, the old Crew Chief Pro. I did see he's got some seminars going on. I think they're maybe $10 a piece to get in there, learn live from the creator of the software how to manipulate the software to the best of your ability that will benefit you most. Make sure you head over to Crew Chief Pro's Facebook, message Don Higgins if you need to. I'm sure he'll be receptive. But if you don't have a weather station or the Crew Chief Pro software, I strongly advise it. I don't care what type of racing you're doing. Get you some data, okay? Get you some good data too. TSR Racing Products, appreciate it. You guys have renewed with us yet again. Coming into the next year, 2025. You need anything for those transmissions, I promise that even if it's a question, I would say somebody at TSR is going to have the answer for you, and they'll greet you pretty warmly there. So, Driven Racing Oil, can't say enough about you. GBR10 to get you that discount. Get those shipments over on out there to you. Anything over $99, I do believe, shipped to your house for free. You can't go wrong with some Driven Racing Oil. Proform Parts, especially Proform Parts. Get out there, get you those dial feeler gauges, whatever case you've been talking about, a dial pin. I don't know which one you've been talking about, man. Something they can use to get their clearances in. See, Casey gets to talking all that engine talk, and George can't do it. So head to Proform Parts. They got a lot of stuff. Thumbs up. 8th Mile Apparel, Gearhead Solutions, brand new to GBR in 2025. Special shout out to you guys coming on board. I know they got tires. You're looking for those Mickeys. I don't care what kind of tires they are. I'm pretty sure Gearhead can get his hands on them. And Casey, man, those guys that you're at here, those GBR boys, George and Casey, they'll give you top-notch customer service. They will market you to the greatest bracket racing community in the sport right now. Hands down, I don't think anybody will disapprove of that message. Casey, man, we got to go into the next segment of this show, and I'll kind of kick us off again here, man, as we continue with the WDRA IHRA merger. There's still another benefactor in the mix here that we really don't. I don't really think a lot of people think about this, Casey, in the context of what we're going to bring it out as, and that's NHRA. I know everybody's sitting there in their seats or driving them big trucks or cars, whatever, head back home from work, maybe stuck in traffic. Don't flipping nobody the bird. Just hang in there. You'll get home soon. But why would NHRA be a benefactor? Why would they gain from a merger of WDRA IHRA? And I can answer it. I'll at least start my first thought, Casey, is that old semi-pro deal that we always talk about in sports. The G League to the NBA. I don't know what hockey is. The farm system, all three of them to MLB. A place where Clay Millican can be born. Part 2, I guess. Right? You know what I mean? What are your thoughts, Casey?
Well, I mean, first of all, I would never personally complain with being Scottie Pippen to the Michael Jordan. You know, second best is still better than everybody but one guy. And ultimately, the problem for the for the professional classes in NHRAs, it's such a big stepping stone to go from, I mean, they have like A fuel cars and stuff like that, but they don't get the publicity that they otherwise could. And I think a lot of the A fuel teams, they could be top fuel teams in IHRA. It takes kind of the same money to run what IHRA ran in the past. All those years, Clay Milliken dominated. Like there were years that I feel like he won every single race in top fuel, and they ran a lot of them. And but then he would come to NHRA and get his teeth kicked in. And you know, and obviously that's just the fuel ranks, and there's specific classes like Mountain Motor Pro Stock that IHRA ran primarily, and Pro Mod obviously started in IHRA as far as professional category went. And you know, there needs to be a stepping stone in NHRA, and I don't think that it is looked down upon to say you want an IHRA category. Okay, now like maybe number 1 in IHRA ranks is number 16 in NHRA. And the goal is to get to NHRA, just like AAA baseball. You can be the best player in AAA baseball, but ultimately you want to get to the MLB. And that happens all the time. People go back and forth in that all the time. But I think I heard on one of Wes Buck's podcasts that Scott Palmer, People's Champ, the guy who has top fuel cars, and I don't even know if dude might live out of his race car trailer or something like that, but has a top fuel car, obviously, and has pro mods, and has he did have that Studezilla, and then it burnt up, and I think he about killed himself in that deal. But the point is that Scott Palmer could go run IHRA and probably be a champion immediately. But there's that area where IHRA could be affordable. He said, put one mag on the fuel cars and it'll slow them down type thing. So maybe IHRA has that rule, which I think A Fuel has that rule. But like, just give these guys a place to race for the professional categories, that then the goal ultimately can be getting the NHRA. And that doesn't lessen the IHRA or WDRA or whatever category that is. A champion's a champion. You were still the best of whoever you were racing with. The ultimate goal would be to go to NHRA. And I think that sometimes it's okay to be second best to somebody.
Yeah, and I like the second best thought process. As a matter of fact, I'd kind of go back even further than that on the racetrack. You said maybe the 16, the number 1 car in IHRA might be the 16th qualifier, right? Well, there's still going to be 17, 18, 19, 20, possibly even 25, because that's something that we don't see. I see Kevin Greider in here saying, "Oh, wow, NHRA sits back and just watches." I know they're definitely watching, man, because I feel like in their thought process, in my thought process, maybe even in yours out there in the GBR community, there's nobody that's ever going to take over NHRA anyway. There's nobody picking the whale out that ain't the same size as the whale. It is what it is, okay? This ain't the David and Goliath match here, and I'm sorry if David was going against the NHRA, and I won't say that because he had power got behind. Anyway, let me not go there. Anyway, so let's just say that whale is not going to be swallowed by another whale. It is the biggest whale in our sport, in the sport of drag racing, period. But that whale is very smart, very selective. I mean, if you have the ability to pull more sponsorship into your sport, because they have nurtured and nursed a kid who just came out of junior dragsters, and all of a sudden he's driving pro stock cars, and he's got a pro stock car in the IHRA ranks, and he's busting everybody up, or he's getting second or third. Maybe that sponsor says, well, I got a few 100,000 more that we can throw a couple of NHRA events in on here to see if you even qualify. That is what NHRA would benefit from.
Well, and based on what you're saying too, going back, you know, I know I'm harping on the A Fuel stuff, but the fact of the matter is an A Fuel car in IHRA could be top dog. Like it could be the fastest, baddest thing there, blowing nitro flames out and all that stuff. But you put those at a national event with NHRA cars, no one cares. Yeah. Even though those things go 270, 280 mile an hour, something like that. I know Megan Meyer, I think, has the record like 509 or 507 or some, she might, I don't know if she went in fours or not, but it was very, very fast to the point where NHRA changed the rules because they were scared they'd go in the fours. They don't want them to do that.
Right.
Well, over in IHRA, they could be top dog. Now they get all the TV time. Now they get all the spectators show up. So now they can get sponsors and all this stuff. And that then benefits both IHRA and NHRA because now, or WDRA, whatever, I don't even know what to call it right now because we should stop saying WDRA because their stuff's obviously successful, right?
It's working. You leave them out of the mix.
Yeah. But the fact of the matter is there needs to be a category where those A fuel cars could be an actual stepping stone to top fuel. Because right now, they're in a scenario where maybe a couple people could have a big time sponsor and whatnot, but they don't get enough TV time to where they could be like, hey, man, you see all the TV time we're getting over here with IHRA or WDRA? Well, we'd get even more if we went to NHRA. So maybe you give me another $1 million and I can go do that next year and we can do even more for you. And there's that logical step, kind of like Top Sportsman, obviously a next logical step. What is it? Promod. It is what it is. They're the same cars. It just needs a little bigger motor, and now you can say, I'm doing this. Now I'm going to do this. And now I'm going to have all these extra eyes. So does that justify to you, Mr. Sponsor?
Right. And on the back end of that, Casey, one thing that I know NHRA cannot do, that anybody who puts together a sanctioning body that has more of a professional upscale, a little bit more of a beat to, is they can't entice those no prep king cars to come to their races and bring those millions of fans that follow. Okay, because there are groupies to those race car drivers over there on the no prep king side. Okay, legitimate like a AC/DC groupie or something. I don't know what band to name here, but man, you ought to see the line of people
and
at Murder Nova. Huh?
There's a huge opening too. Speaking of that I would consider to be more of the outlaw culture that NHRA obviously is not all about. They don't like that.
Right.
These two other organizations over here need to take advantage of the fact that Discovery, from what I've heard, has dropped MPK. They're their own thing now. And if you can bring those outlaw type guys over there, there's a lot more people than NHRA realized. Because NHRA, I think, scared that they're going to lose all their corporate sponsor white collar guy sponsorships. Guess what? And I'm not saying anything that anybody who's watching this show doesn't know, but those people don't watch NHRA. People like us watch NHRA. People who are wearing T-shirts right now, being on a YouTube show where we could easily be fancy looking. Like, look at, it's just the simple fact people are like us. People have dirty hands that like this stuff. And guess what? If you put those outlaw guys on there, I'd venture to say the Street Outlaws have more fans than NHRA does in the last 5 years. As far as new fan conversion goes, for sure.
No, don't doubt it at all, man. Like I said, dude, and I won't say that NHRA they don't have groupies. They don't got the same type of groupies that the doggone no prep kings got. All right, it's a different story over there.
And they don't have young people.
Right.
That's the difference.
Right.
They don't have, if they do have young people, it's because they're people like us who their dads did it, so they do it. And now my kid's going to do it, and your kid's going to do it, and stuff like that. But the people that MPK had they were new people that happened to see it on TV and they liked it because they saw the drama that came out of it, and they saw people running these cool cars that looked like real cars, and they saw people who had personalities, and they have their own YouTube channels, and they're interesting because they'll say things that you can't say on Fox 1,
something that everybody else is scared.
And it just is look at Stevie Jackson. He's an NHRA racer. Look at what he'll say. You look at Stevie's Facebook page, he's out there dynoing Pro Mod cars. He just released a video like a couple hours ago where he found like 60 more average horsepower than the Shadow made to run 361 at Snowbirds, and now they're getting ready to go to U.S. Street Nationals at the Art Vinco car, so it might go 50s now. There's so much more backstory in it where, you can see back whenever we were younger, And yeah, YouTube wasn't a thing back then, but even you can look at it today, even if John Force was the man that he was back then today and just dominant, they didn't have the level of drive to do all this YouTube stuff and do this and do that and show you exactly what I'm doing and all that stuff like these new guys go. And I think that with MPK going off a Discovery Channel, I think that there's a huge opening. And I think that both people could mutually benefit because MPK needed Discovery Channel. They no longer have Discovery Channel, but they have a huge following. And the YouTube stuff is okay, but it's not great. They could benefit from having a big organization promote them, and they could both make each other bigger. And I think that either IHRA or WDRA needs to jump on that immediately.
I know one of the main kickers is it's MPK, so it's no prep, right? And that's going to be the main thought process behind being able to pull MPK into either one of the sanctioning bodies, and then
But they all have pro mods.
They all got pro mods, but why are we not calling it pro mod at that sense? You know what I mean? There's an aspect of those MPK guys that I can see they would want to keep the MPK feel. Most of those guys we know from Outlaws came from the street in the first place. And we do know there's some type of prep on that track, either way you look at it. So anyway, go ahead.
Well, and here's the thing too. Maybe it's not necessarily MPK anymore, but if you bring those cars to a smaller track, like a normal track, yeah, it's prepped, but it's still an outlaw feel. Like you got Armco barriers, you got a small track that's got a lot of grass in the pits, like you don't have asphalt everywhere, stuff like that. Those guys would still come and go 390s or 380s at that track. They don't care. And I was just talking to JP Miller, Fast Brackets podcast this morning, and I said, dude, like we were talking about Mad Dog, a 450 index door car series out here. And we were talking about the fact that it's still heads up and it's 450, which seems slow nowadays for door cars because they're going 350s now. But when you put them at a smaller track that's not a national event facility, it's just an 8-mile track, dude, it looks really fast. And I can tell you from experience, it feels fast whenever you don't have a mile of shutdown and stuff. And you still, like, you better throw both chutes and stuff like that because you need them to stop. And it's just a different thing. And those cars going, even if they go 420s there, they're going to blast down through there because all night you've been watching cars, best case scenario, go 450s, 460s, something like that, bracket cars. And then you see Disco Dean blast down here in that new Burt Reynolds, but pink Trans Am, which is probably one of the coolest cars I've ever seen.
Right.
You see him blast down through there going 4 flat. Dude, that looks fast.
Right.
No,
that is
and
fast.
It is fast. It's not fast. It's just really fast for where it is.
Yeah, man. No, anyway, I think there's quite the opportunity behind that as well. I don't quite know where our old bracket racer behinds sit, except for we're going to have a heck of a year in 2025 anyway, so are we even going to have time to go to something like that? And if we aren't bracket racing, a lot of us fast enough are running that Verge series anyway. So, I mean, it's a good spot. WDRA seems to have sealed up, I think, at least the rumor mill is going to tell me, I believe they sealed up another 2-year agreement with Summit. So, obviously, they're doing something right. That's all I got to say here. And they've always seemed to have a warm spot in their hearts for us bracket racers. So, whatever is good for WDRA, sign me up at this point. Because I'm tired of playing musical chairs with IHRA, and hopefully they can stop the song and everybody can stay seated and you don't got to turn the music back on anymore, but that remains to be seen. So it is what it is, guys. Casey, man.
Yeah, and I just want to read a couple comments out of the YouTube chat over here. Brandon Cox, less cooks. I'm assuming he means less cooks in the kitchen. Tom Worthington, the name you were searching for is Jonah earlier.
Yeah.
Larry Kahn, letting the semi-pros sell their own merch helps the smaller teams also. Big Brother does not allow that. That's 100% true as well. That's the reason why MPK can do what they can do. I've heard of those guys selling like $40,000 worth of merchandise in one race. That's how they afford what they afford. Scott Purley, Top Fuel Harley Pro Mod and Mountain Motor Pro Stock will have the stands packed at the IHRA. Yep, that's the truth, man. Yeah,
It
Tom
wants.
Worthington again. For me, the sanctioning body doesn't matter. It doesn't really impact my weekly bracket racing experience, with the exception of the AHRA, which is something that's very little talked about. That they do have a few tracks out here. They were huge back in the day, by the way. I want to say Don Garlitz won a Top Fuel championship with them back in probably the '60s. But yeah, man, it's a lot of good comments in there. If you have anything, you want to say, put it in the chat right now, and obviously put it in the comments later if you listen to it later. But Top Fuel Harley, I believe that was something that was talked about with the new IHRA stuff, and I think that that's something also that was invented in the IHRA back in the day.
Yeah, I still think there's more to come with this whole thing. Yeah, it's quite a bit different now than it was last week. Quite a bit different. What 7 days will do to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
7 days, you feel like you've really gone a long way. I see OCP Promotions up in the building. What's going on, CP, man? Good to see you out here. Guys, keep in mind, I'll be posting them schedules out here pretty soon, too. And you got races that you want to get on our schedule, go on bracketracing@gmail.com if you'd like for us to promote those races. We will definitely be getting them out because this time I'm itching already, and we ain't but couple weeks into the dang off season in the first place. I'm itching pretty good, man. So I see JP Miller in here too. He says, I would love to see IHRA make a strong return. He says drag racing needs fans in the stands, and all series is thriving. I agree with that 100%.
And
that would help everything.
and we need someone to be okay with having a series that, I'm sorry, I don't see anybody being in HRA. It's not going to happen. It's fine to be second best in HRA. And for example, WDRA has pretty much taken over the state of North Carolina now. They pretty much have every single track now. So we have enough tracks now within a general vicinity. WDRA needs to start thinking about, how can we have our own division champion or something like that? How can we race our divisions? How can we race number one in North Carolina against number one in South Carolina? How can we race that same person against number one in Virginia and Illinois and wherever else they are? Kentucky, they're in a lot of places, Michigan, something like that. But the fact of the matter is that when you acquire this many tracks, I want to say that they said this was their 60th track signing. It means something to be a champion. It doesn't matter if it's NHRA, IHRA, WDRA. It means something to be the best out of everybody that year. And when you have enough tracks, and it's not 15 tracks scattered all across the country, if you have 60 tracks and they're all in a general vicinity, even if they're not, you need to have divisions in certain areas to where everybody can race each other, and some guy can talk about his buddy like, yeah, he was the world champion that year. Like, he was the division champion that year. Like, that means something, and it means something to everybody from whatever organization it is, because at the end of the day, we all as racers want to be better than everybody else there. That's the goal. That's the whole reason we race.
I don't even care if you're my friend. I want to beat you. We
yeah,
cool
maybe,
until we pull up to that stage and beat him.
Maybe it doesn't, like whenever I was probably 15 years younger, I cared a lot about winning the race. That meant a whole lot to me. It still means a lot to me. I still won't show up if I don't think that I'm going to be competitive and win the race. It's not the end all be all anymore. I have some other things that I like to concentrate on rather than like sometimes I'll be messing with stuff that 10 or 15 years ago, I'd be like, no way, man, that could make me, I might not run what I think I'm going to run next round. I'll just leave it junk because it could make it worse type thing. Now I'm liable to, in fifth round, be like, I'm going to change the shocks on this because I'm not going to win the race like this anyway type thing. Yep. Maybe it makes it better, maybe it doesn't. Yep. But the fact of the matter is every single person at that racetrack wants to win the race. Regardless how much they might not care about winning the race, but they want to win the race. Everybody wants to win the race that's at that track. And whenever you have this many facilities under your jurisdiction, you need to have and I know WDRA is going to say, well, we have bracket finals and stuff. Yeah. We need to think of more, yes, there's bracket finals. Yes, I guess technically there's still a world championship and stuff. But I'm thinking more of like the sportsman side of things. I know a lot of people, man, they want super comp, super gas, hot rod, which is super street. Also, I guess I kind of mix those together on everything. They want top sportsman, they want top dragster. And I know a lot of people are like, well, we did these things for IHRA last year, and a lot of people didn't support it. Well, it's like, yeah, but you also wanted them to buy a membership to race in Darlington, and then the next race was all the way in Alabama or something. Like, people aren't going to do that because now your race that costs $100 to enter actually costs like $300 to enter, and you can only run one.
See what you mean,
So-
though, Casey, in the area, especially where you are, where there's so many WDRA tracks in your area. Man, y'all could meet in a remote
Yeah.
location, run for a state championship, and it would go a long
Right.
way, bro. Just even at just like high school football, you state champion
Yeah.
of wherever you are, and that goes a long way. So, no, man, I think there's a lot of meat on the bones, still. And but good job so far. That's all I gotta say. You seem to be the sanctioning body and that had a plan, that stuck with the plan. It doesn't seem like you've, at least to us, and if you had, we'd probably know it. This is the age of social media, but you haven't seemed to deviate it from the original plan thus far. So hey, man, that's a shout out to you guys over at the WDRA for doing a good job thus far. That's all I got. Casey, man, what you got in closing, bro?
Man, just same old, same old. Glad to have everybody supporting the show. Glad to have all these people. We got about 20 extra people figuring out how to watch it live. So this 30 minutes later must be helping people get a hold of us every single week. Again, always pay attention to the bottom of the screen. Pay attention to all the shout outs during the show. Those people allow this show to be free every single week. Again, this is episode 182, and most of them have been with us from the very beginning. Glad to again have Gearhead Solutions on board. Everybody go check out gearheadsolutions.com. Tons and tons of parts over there. Anything you don't see on there, call Trevor on the phone and he'll be able to hook you up with whatever you need, man. Good prices over there. Support small business. That's what we always do. That's TSR, BRG, Proform, Driven Racing Oil, Crew Chief Pro. Support Going Bracket Racing. Get you some 8th Mile apparel. Go to 8thmileapparel.com. Get you some Going Bracket Racing gear, man. Glad to have everybody with us for another great season of Going Bracket Racing Live, and we'll be with you every Tuesday from here on out, for the most part, 5:30 time.
5:30.
And if you can't catch us live, you can always go watch it back on YouTube, Facebook, or catch us on Spotify if you're more of a listener type.
Heard that, man. Guys, we'll see you guys next week. Be safe out there, and good luck with anything you got going on this week. How about that? Peace out.